Trash talking and weigh-ins are done. Here it is, UFC 194 in Las Vegas. Jose Aldo, the champion for 10 years, and the challenger, Conor McGregor, enter the cage. For months now, these two have been training non-stop, watching what they eat, making sure they can improve until this very moment. The refs tell them the rules, and they marshal them back into their spots, their corners. The crowd goes silent as the most anticipated fight of the year begins. The bell rings. Both men make their way to the center of the ring, throwing little punches, jabs, kicks just to fill out their opponent. Aldo goes in for the big hit, misses, and Conor McGregor lands the counter. Down goes Aldo. In a matter of 13 seconds, the fight was over. Conor McGregor has done it. He became the first to hold the 145 weight class besides Jose Aldo. The most anticipated fight of the year, and it ended in 13 seconds. This tends to happen a lot in the UFC, especially with legends like Iceman Chuck Liddell, Anderson the Spider Silva, and even the rowdy Ronda Rousey. They've all knocked people unconscious multiple times in their career. Before her loss to Holly Holmes, Ronda Rousey only spent a total of 2 minutes and 30 seconds in her 12 title fights. She was the first woman to ever hold the UFC title belt for the women. In the beginning, though, mixed martial arts, the UFC was only a platform for the mixed martial arts. There was no women fighting class. To even compete, you had to have mastered 2 different types of fighting: jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, American wrestling, boxing, kickboxing. But that was when it first started. But back then, there also wasn't nearly as many rules to protect the fighters from injuring each other. Back in 1993, when the UFC first started, there was hardly any rules at all. People didn't have to wear mouth guards or even a particular uniform. There's videos on YouTube where men enter in the cage with one boxing glove and one bare knuckle. And even in the same YouTube video, a man wearing a sumo uniform enters the cage. UFC is the fastest growing sport in the world. When the UFC first started, it only had one weight class, which meant that a man weighing 150 pounds could be fighting another man weighing 250 plus. But now, the UFC has created around 4 different weight classes to help level the playing field. Men are allowed to bounce back and forth between the weight classes, like McGregor actually did. He moved up to 170 for his last fight against Nate Diaz. Nearly 40 live events a year, filling football stadiums to performance arenas, and having its very own TV show, The Ultimate Fighter. The UFC has traveled very far from the old days. The TV show, Ultimate Fighter, people come from all around the United States to get a chance just to join the UFC. For 20 weeks, they train alongside world-famous coaches, heavyweight champions like Rampage Jackson. In several seasons, the UFC even was able to put a team, the United States, against other countries. There's even a movie starring Kevin James where he gets the chance to fight in the UFC. A school teacher, having to raise money for a music program, decides to fight MMA after hearing how much they make per fight. He is trained by his coach, an ex-UFC fighter, comes from Poland. Now, that's not strange. A lot of the world's greatest MMA fighters come from other countries. An example, Anderson the Spider Silva, coming from Brazil as a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When winning the heavyweight champion or lightweight title, you don't only win the title, you also win the name of the greatest fighter in the world for that weight class. UFC, in my opinion, is the most entertaining sport in the world. You can have a big name star come in here that's trained for months, lose to someone who just started fighting. Because it's not always about the training aspect. It's not always about who worked harder. Most of the time, it's actually about who wants the title more. The newcomers or the veterans who assume they can't really be beat. People hate paying for UFC fights where it only lasts 13 seconds like Conor McGregor's fight, or 23 seconds like Ronda Rousey. But this is what makes this sport the most entertaining sport you will ever watch. You will never know what you're going to get.